This is going to be an update video on this wood stove we built. We made it from a 36-inch excavator bucket, and it's a little bit deeper than normal too. It's a different style of bucket. So from the inside of the firebox, it's like 28 inches, and then out here it's about 36. So it's been burning pretty good in here. The only issue is he's not insulated in this barn yet, but it puts out a ton of heat. So, but we're going to do some modifications to it. Primarily the air intake, he thinks it's getting too much air.
I'd like to shut it down like a little bit more to conserve on wood a little bit. It does eat a lot of wood, so
you can really fill this thing up. So the primary air comes in from the back of the stove on the outside and comes in this tube that goes around, and there's slots right there, if you can see, and then on the outside. So he is thinking that these slots are too big, and we didn't really know how much air to give it, so we had intended on modifying it at some point. So we're gonna try to close off the front slots to try to choke it down and not give it so much air.
And I'd like it also our first thought was like it would bring a lot of air through the front and burn through the fire and like swirl around, and then there's a big plate up top and the flue gas has got to go like around and then come all the way up front to go out. We thought it would push the fire back, but what it ends up happening is it just burns the front of your log load and then it goes straight up.
Yeah.
So I feel like I want to try to draw more air through those side vents to try to get the...
It'll help burn towards the back more. So there's a big baffle plate, like right here, from the back all the way to the front, and the exhaust has to go up and around and out the chimney. So this stove also has secondary air tubes here that come in from the back. So when you close the main air intake down here, you close the dampers, it wants to draw air from here, and it helps burn off more gases and helps it more efficiently. Also, there's a blower, that crazy curved tube back there, there's a blower fan on the outside, so the fire heats that up, and then we can turn on the blower, and then hot air helps get distributed from out there.
How many feet of weld are on that?
There's a lot of weld on this. We're still playing with it. This is called an air wash. This separate tube here, or it's not really a tube, it's a separate air chamber that's tied into the secondary burn tubes that gets air intake from the back. I'll show you in a minute. But this is supposed to draw in a little bit of air, and it's supposed to flow down the glass to help keep the glass clean. So this was straight across. We kind of just mashed that with a hammer, and that seemed to help because the gap was too big. So we closed it up, and it seemed to help with the glass. We may play with that too. So this is our main damper lever. So this is connected to all these rods, and then those are the doors that closes and or opens the primary air on the bottom of the stove. So when you close that, when those are closed and the fire's burning good, it draws in air from these tubes up here, and that's where the air comes from, the top of that secondary burn. And then the blower fan is down here, goes up through the bottom. But so first we're gonna try to close off from these front holes and then light a fire and see if that changed anything. Has it been heating pretty well, or?
It heats pretty well. I don't have any insulation in here, so if I fire that stove up and it runs for like 2 hours or so, I can usually move the temperature in here 20 degrees off of whatever the ambient air temperature is outside.
And he has 0 insulation. This is, how big is this?
56 by 40.
With 12 foot?
14
foot walls. This is a big space, and without being once he gets this thing insulated, I think this stove will throw off plenty of heat. It's gonna eat some wood, but we made it pretty efficient, so.
I think if I'm able to move it 20 degrees in here without any insulation at all, it should be able to move this thing and keep it a comfortable 70-ish.
Yeah, and it just, there's so much mass there, it radiates. Like this front plate's like 5/8 or something, and the bucket's thick too. So there's a lot of thermal mass that radiates the heat. But I want to put some weld on that, the front air intake, and then we'll light a fire.
it's using that. Dog makes a lot of kindling. Mulch grinder.
So we're gonna get this fired up, let it run for a while, and then try to shut down the dampers, see if our modification did anything, see if we can get the secondary burn to fire good, and depending on that, we might close off these holes too for the secondary air. He was thinking those might need some sort of modification, but we're gonna run it and tinker with it. Also, I've gotten some comments on the build videos of this and my other stove video. Some people mention about putting a damper, those pretty generic flapper, whatever you call them flapper dampers in the chimney pipe.
So is it called a flue damper?
Yeah, a flue damper. They come in those like barrel stove kits, and they're, I don't know, I'd say they're pretty common in shop stoves and stuff like that. A lot of people say, why don't we put one of those in? And in our opinion, those are like not good at all to use. It's really bad to dampen the exhaust of your fire. You want to dampen the intake. You don't want to restrict the flow of the exhaust.
I think those flue dampers were designed for non-airtight stoves.
Sure, yeah. This is like, we built this thing very well. We want it airtight and efficient. Those stoves are for
door gasket and everything.
Yeah, this thing's sealed pretty good. Those were probably, they are meant for like legitimate barrel stoves and, you know, barn shop stoves, not perfectly engineered stoves like this.
Yeah.
So you always want to dampen your intake, not the exhaust, for, you know, stuff like this. It's safer too. So it's not going to mean much to do like a temperature time test in here, like we said, because he's not insulated. It does get it warmer, but it doesn't hold heat. But just because it's 53 in here, it's 12:30. We'll see if we can get it any warmer. It's not that cold outside. What is it outside? Maybe 40 or something. Yeah, it's a little warm today.
45 or so, I think, outside.
It's going pretty good now. The stack temp, I don't know how accurate that is. That came off a stove with a catalyst, so that's why it goes up so high. So that's saying it's like 400. Yeah, it's about 400. I think that's a probe too, that goes in. So we're like 370, 80, yeah, we're like 400. So now this is when we normally shut it down. So we'll see if, we'll close those dampers and see if that flame slows down any. So it slowed down a touch, and then you can see the secondary burn tubes firing off. So we're choking down the primary air towards the bottom, and now it's wanting to draw in air from the top, but it might be sucking in too much air from that secondary too. But it's firing off pretty good from those tubes.
It'll slow down a bit.
Yeah, it's slowing down now, the burn's slowing down, but the gases that aren't getting burned down here are getting burned from that extra air coming up top. That's the whole idea behind it. I mean, it's radiating a lot of heat there. We're like 3. Yeah, that's still a little bit cold. It'll get hotter than that. This is thick. It's like 5/8 thick plate. Oh yeah, the blower. It's on a timer. Coming out of here, it'll help spread some heat out. So that's the primary air we got closed. And then I'll show you this paper. See, that's the only air that's coming into the stove. It's sucking in through this hole and that hole. You can see it drawn. So we might, I don't know, it's burning pretty good, but we might close those up a little bit too. And I also want to see how clean the glass stays, because we modified that a little bit.
Whether it's like a super lane one, like a screw and swing it open or closed.
Yeah, you can, it's hard to see through the reflection of the glass. Oh, now it kind of stopped. Open those back up. It's hard to tell with the reflection of the glass, but you can see up here and in the back that's the flames kind of refiring off the tubes there. We're still playing with it, but it's working. The secondary combustion is happening there. It just went pretty good there. The exhaust is pretty clean too. In general, the cleaner the smoke coming out of your chimney, the cleaner the fire's burning. You don't really want to see any smoke coming out. If you don't see much smoke, then that means it's burning pretty clean and efficient. There's some more action of it up there. Yeah, there it goes. Hard to see with the glare. It's been a few hours. It's the same wood that we put in originally. I think it was burning a little better. What do you think? I modified the glass cleaner too. I think that will, that definitely helped modifying that.
Yeah, it used to
It used to get really black.
It used to just be like a V.
Yeah.
Like the centered stay clean and there's a V. Now it's like just the edges get dirty, which, I mean, you're gonna have.
Yeah, it's anything's better than, I mean, it's very clean compared to a lot of stoves. Yeah, I just needed to close that gap, was too big, so it has more of a stream of air. Cleaning the glass.
I think choking down that gap will also help because that piece is connected to the secondary burn, so it's pulling a lot of air down over the door and feeding the fire, and
right,
not pulling as much air through those tubes, so
right,
it might pull less air.
It's open back up now. So yeah, we just want to do an update on it. Maybe when are you getting insulated here? A couple more paychecks, or
more paychecks.
Whenever he gets insulated, we'll do some tests on how well it holds the heat, and I think he won't have a problem with this stove.
Next winter
might be a while. But let us know if you got any questions.